human beings have genetically modified every living thing around us for thousands of years. I mean, if you look around, like the grass on that lawn, that tree, the dog down there, all of these things we created. They never existed in nature. I mean, we do genetic manipulation by altering the contents of genes, but the sexual reproduction accomplishes the same thing. Do you remember when artists were afraid of computers? I mean, I remember when the Rhode Island School of Design said, "We hate computers, they're inhuman, we'll never have computers." Now, of course, they have computers, and they make computer art. And now artists are saying, "Oh, this is scary Frankenstein, it's GMO." Wait 20 years. We'll be able to tear down the factories that pollute the environment and replace them with with very environmentally friendly. I mean, these bioreactors will produce all of the material that we need for daily life, right? Paper, plastic, oil, electrical circuits. It's a very, like Ito said, it's a very pliable medium. We can build many things with this, and artists, including art, we can build the same. The mission of art, anyway, is to leave this signature of our, aspirations, our dreams and experience, and in whatever forms we fight. We fight the weathering of marble, the freeze-thaw cycles. We fight the bleaching of the sun. We fight the harsh, chaotic forces of nature in every way. That's art. It's funny, if you look up art in the dictionary, I don't know about German, but in English, in the Oxford Dictionary, in the American Heritage Dictionary, if you look up art, it says opposed to nature. It's funny. I think that's why. It's like a lot of artists get pissed off when I bring this point up that they're supposed to be opposed to nature, but it's true. I make something to hold an idea, and it doesn't matter about the craft. It doesn't matter about the stone or the wood or the paper or the pencils or the canvas and the paint. It's to hold an idea. That's what makes it art. We have all this information from genomics. We've learned about the interactions of proteins and their regulation in nature. We've learned all this stuff about our ancestors and about how proteins have evolved, but we'll never find the gene for why we're interested in DNA in the first place. We'll never find the gene for many things that make us intrinsically human. And my idea was to grow it that information back into the biological world around us, not just sending it into space, but making it biologically compatible. I worked for 20 years to make the quietest, least environmentally interfering form of genetic manipulation ever attempted, including all of the manipulations of science. And for that, I coded the fragments of Heraclitus. He was the greatest writer of his age, the greatest scientist according to his contemporaries. He wrote a book on nature that is now lost. One of the triangles in mathematics is named after him, and all of his works of mathematics are also lost. But see, I put them into the genes for the white eyes of fruit flies. It will never be lost now. That will never be burned. I mean, there will never be another disaster like Alexandria. There won't be we can now make this fail-safe. Believe it or not, it was the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Because the search for extraterrestrial intelligence boils down to three basic problems. You need something that can withstand the extreme environments of space, radiation, temperature, vacuum. You need something that you can make hundreds of billions of copies of for hundreds of billions of targets. And you need something that can remain viable for periods of what we consider to be geologic time. And to all three of those questions, bacteria, especially sporulating bacteria, answer very well. And I never intended to pollute extraterrestrial environments with terrestrial organisms. I was building these biological spacecraft with radiation-resistant bacteria that designed to survive the trip out. But I never took them out of lab. So then I found out that Space Shuttle is dumping its toilet in space. And when the wastewater gets it, not just Space Shuttle, Skylab, Apollo, Gemini, Mercury, they all dump their, and when the wastewater gets ejected, it's in liquid form and it's into vacuum, and so it explodes supersonically, expands at high velocity, faster than a speeding bullet, and quickly turns into ice crystals, 1 millimeter to 1 micron in diameter, and quickly, within 22 months, occupies every conceivable orbit. So there's this belt around the Earth made of human waste. Now, think about this. E. coli is a large percentage of your feces. I'm not into fecal art, but Salvador Dali was. He wrote, in his autobiography, he wrote a chapter called Rhinocerotics. But it's amazing that from this bacterium, from shit, we discovered all these secrets of life, these grand secrets of life. And now, because we dumped it into space, it's too late to sweep it up. That this is our gift to the cosmos. Dali would be pleased. The brain is trillions of neurons, right? It's all connected to hundreds of billions of other neurons, and the brain is also the result of code, right? That coded from the DNA that codes for making the brain. And the senses that we use that are attached to the brain, they're also code, like optical integration time. You see only 0.2 of a second intervals, nothing smaller. Everything, it's all code, dude. It's all code. And that code is only made more complicated by the instrumentation we use to augment the senses. It's like code, dude. I'm really lucky. I speak both languages, so I get invited by the artistic community of the arts, and I also get invited by the scientific community. I delivered colloquia in physics, biochemistry, pathology, biology, even mathematics, and also I get invited by the community of the arts. They all claim me as one of their own. It's, in a way, I was a lecturer in architecture for my first 10 years at MIT. And when I moved to biology, and I had a full teaching load, and when I moved to biology, I was a researcher, and so I was no longer a teacher. But this is my way of teaching now. I miss teaching a lot, but this is my way of teaching now. I was doing something that was unheard of, that immediately didn't make any sense to the world, that I was going to have to do this, do it well, and explain to the world what it means, There wasn't really an example for that, but I knew that there are examples like Da Vinci and Vitruvius and all these polymaths and Renaissance figures that you learn about in school as a kid. You learn that this is what art can be, this is what we're capable of, and you see these ideas ripped out of you, throughout the rest of your career in education and in business. They just rip that away from you. But I held on to it, to that notion.